AKPA, Bedtime Storytime. AKPA, Bedtime Storytime.
Good evening, boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of AKPA's Bedtime Storytime. And tonight, I'll be reading The Heart of the Forest. Jonah is a 13-year-old. She likes to draw, to listen to music, science fiction movies, and playing soccer with her best friends. Sally and Dina, she met them on the first day of school, and they have been inseparable ever since. Her favorite song is Rose Garden by Lynn Anderson. Her friends think that it is an old song, but she loves it because her mom used to sing it to her when she was little. Jonah always say that she doesn't have a favorite color, but every time she goes shopping, she ends up buying green t-shirts. She enjoys math a lot because the exercises look like a game, but she also likes history classes because they remind her of movies. When she walks through the streets of the city with her mom, Clara, everyone thinks they look alike. They are both short, thin, and their eyes are green as the forest. Jonah loves the forest. Her mother always talks about a house in the country that her grandmother has. Jonah barely remembers having been there. In general, Jonah doesn't appear different from other girls her age. But what nobody knows is that she has a secret. Fairies have decided to live in her bedroom. The first flower appeared next to the bed. It was a Wednesday, and Clara was cleaning her daughter's room when she found it. Jonah had always been a tidy kid, so she was surprised to find one of her toys outside the wardrobe. Besides, she had never seen this particular toy before. It was amazing. It even had 2 ladybugs on top, red and shiny. It's really pretty, she thought, and it looks so real. She looked around. The toy was too beautiful to put in the wardrobe. She moved her hands closer to the flower, and suddenly the ladybugs start to fly around her arms. "They're real," she shouted, although she was completely alone. "How is this even possible?" she shouted, and she saw that the ladybugs had stopped near the open window. It seemed as if they didn't want to go too far. If the ladybugs are real, maybe the flower is as well, she thought, and she touched them to discover that she hasn't been mistaken. How could a flower have grown in the middle of a bedroom? She had never seen anything like it. Jonah arrived from school a little later, and she found her mom sitting on the floor of her room. She had moved the carpet and built something that looked like a barrier around the floor, using parts of other toys. "What are you doing?" the girl asked while rubbing her hands together. They were always cold, so that was something she never really stopped doing. "And why is there a flower in the middle of my room?" "I'm trying to water it, but I don't want to soak the entire floor." "And wouldn't it be easier to tear it out from there?" "I think we should take care of it. How many people can say that they grew a flower inside their house? And in a city that is so gray like this, even more where we don't even have gardens. It's so pretty. I've never seen a flower like this." Jonah didn't say anything else, but that night she didn't sleep well. Was it getting warmer in her room? Then, 4 days later, upon returning from a soccer game, she discovered that the grass had started to grow in one of her dressers. Her friends could not believe her. "You're telling us that you have a flower and some grass growing in your room?" Sally asked. "But don't you live in a 12-story building?" "Yeah, and the 5th floor. I know it doesn't make sense, but now I'm scared that one day a tree will appear from out of nowhere or something. The three started to laugh, but Jonah was really worried while her mom seemed thrilled with the idea of having her own garden in the great city. She could only hope that things would go back to normal as soon as possible, but they didn't. During the following weeks, more incredible things occurred in the room. First, Jonah found a vine growing through the shelves and onto the ceiling. It was covered in tiny yellow flowers that the girl remembered having seen in books about the jungle. Then a rose grew in just one night, knocking down a couple of books. And the strangest thing was that everything happened inside of the room, as if there was a force that stopped it from spreading to any other rooms of the house. The grass started to pile up everywhere, but not even a single leaf dared to approach the door. Jonah began to think that she could get used to such a rarity if it wasn't for the animals. Insects appeared from nowhere and took advantage of any moment to bother her with their buzzing. A couple of hamsters decided to move there to live before anyone could stop it. The neighbor's son, who they belonged to, thought he had lost them. Birds appeared soon after. It was a Sunday afternoon and Jonah was chatting with her friends on the computer. They all had doubts about an English exercise and thought it would be easier to solve it if they helped each other out. They hadn't achieved absolutely anything so far, maybe because Sally kept asking about the garden the whole time. Jonah was really bored, and this topic being the center of all their conversations. She was in such a bad mood that she wasn't even enjoying her cupcake. Suddenly, a noise caught her attention. There were two birds knocking on the window using their beaks. It almost felt as if they were asking for permission to come inside. "And what are you waiting for?" her mother asked. "Let them in." "Mom, I really don't think it's such a good idea to let all the city animals into the room." Clara smiled. "Your Nana wouldn't have agreed with you, and you know it. Animals are always welcome in her farm. She even gave them all names. I told you about that." "Yes, and she also used to leave toys around the forest, as if the rabbits could play with them or something." "Do you still remember the farm?" "Barely. I don't understand why we moved to the city. We were happy in the forest, Mom, and Grandma Louise wasn't so alone with us there." "I know, dear, but I really needed the job." She took a deep breath. "Sometimes I think we lost something when coming here instead of gaining it, but look, now the forest has decided to pay us a visit. We are very fortunate." "I'm not so sure of that. Look at how everything is, Mom. Today I was barefoot and I noticed that there was something under the ground, as if a mountain of flowers was about to be born or something. And look how hot it is. I feel like I'll have to move another room in the inn." "I don't think so. Look around you. Nature grows everywhere. True, but your bed and desk are completely clean. And yes, it's hot, but with cold outside. I would prefer it like this 1,000 times more. What I'm trying to say is that they want you here with them." "Great," Jonah thought. Meanwhile, the birds had already found a comfortable place in one of the desk drawers. "Don't you have anywhere else to go?" she asked them, and they flew around her without stopping their tweeting. Maybe they were hungry. Jonah took some small pieces of the cupcake and put them to the side. The hamsters and the big butterfly soon joined the party. "You're going to drive me crazy." Clara left the room laughing to herself. Jonah chatted a little more with her friends, then decided to lie on the bed and read for a while. It was too hot to do anything else. Suddenly, she heard something similar to a whisper, as if someone was calling her name.